Alright, now that we're saved, let's start pressing some of these. So, unlike your earlier testimony, you believe this to be rock solid, do you?
Yes, sir! Solid as stone, sir! If my head wasn't wrapped in bandages, I'd even give the V for victory sign, sir!
Couldn't he just use his right hand for that? Let's hear him out fully. As we've seen, one never knows what he may say until the very last second. Okay, to enter the evidence room, one must use their ID card. Couldn't it have been replaced? Is that card hanging from your neck one of these ID cards?
Yes, sir! This card right next to my cuffs, sir! I keep it here so I won't ever forget it!
But what if someone were to steal it from you, keeping it out in the open like that?
Maybe I shouldn't wear it around my neck. Remember when I said 2 out of 3 times my tie gets stuck when I get out of my car? Well, the remaining time it's my ID card that gets stuck. Instead of the door closing, my ID card chokes me.
Maybe I should leave this one alone. At any rate, each police officer has only one ID card. Both the police department and the prosecutor's office can attest to this. Please proceed with your testimony. Okay, when an ID card is used, there's a record of it. But I mean, Gumshoe says that he has to get his card replaced whenever he loses it. So I mean, isn't it possible that someone just made a fake Goodman ID card? Let it be noted that this is the record the witness referred to. Let me see. Yes, that would be it. Detective Goodman. What's the matter? According to this...
Mr. Edgeworth, your name is on here!
So it is, Your Honor.
Not that prosecutor again!
Hey, maybe he's behind all this! Being a prosecutor, he could hide the evidence!
Mommy, is that man in blue a murderer?
Shh! Don't stare at him! You got the wrong color, kid! It would seem the inquiry committee will want to speak with you again today. I have nothing to be ashamed of regarding my actions, or their consequences. For now, let us continue with the cross-examination. Poor Mr. Edgeworth. It must be so difficult for him. I mean, we already know why. Gant told him to go in there. At the time of the crime, the detective had used his card. Earlier, I believe you testified that when you asked the man to show his ID card, he pulled a knife on you.
Yes, sir! He didn't show me any ID card, sir!
Don't you think that's odd? I mean, if he had his ID card, all he had to do was show it to you. There wouldn't be any reason to draw a knife.
Maybe he just panicked?
Everything stems from contradictions. Let's point them out. Mr. Wright, what do you think? I'm confused. What? The problem with this ID card testimony is far too obvious. Is it? It's not like Edgeworth to miss something like this. You're thinking too hard about it. Come on, let's show him what we've got. Okay. Yeah, I think this is what they're trying to get it at. Because I was thinking it's like, is it really just showing the ID card? And I guess it would be. One must use their whoever there's record. At the time, the detective had used his card. It's gotta be this. Because Goodman's ID was at the prosecutor's office, not the police department. Wait 1 moment, Officer Meekins.
I'm not good at waiting, sir.
I have the victim's ID card right here. I found it at the crime scene. That makes sense. When I say crime scene, I'm not referring to the evidence room at the police department. I mean the other crime scene. The underground parking lot at the prosecutor's office! Your Honor, I have one more piece of evidence to present. It's a very important clue regarding the victim's ID card. A lost item report? It's only half completed, but it shows that Detective Goodman had lost something on the day of the crime. Something important enough to fill out this report. Let me guess. You believe this something to be his ID card, right? I can't say for sure, but there is a high probability. On the day of the crime, Detective Goodman was not carrying his card. Order! Order! So, now, what does this all mean? It can only mean one thing. It doesn't require much thought. The man Officer Meekins encountered in the evidence room was not Detective Goodman, but rather the man who stole his ID card. Order! 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 Does the prosecution have a response? I have only one thing to say to the defense. Bravo, Mr. Wright. Bravo? Allow me to summarize the defense's argument. At 5:15 p.m. on the day of the crime, the man in the evidence room Officer Meekins encountered was not Detective Goodman. There are two grounds to support this. First, the locker in the evidence room was already unlocked. Second, the victim lost his ID card. Am I correct so far, Mr. Wright? Yes? What's he up to? That being the case, we must inevitably arrive at a single conclusion. If the victim in this video is a fake, then the murder in the evidence room is also fake. In other words, the security camera does not show the instant of the murder. That is... Well, I guess that's right. Is something wrong, Mr. Wright? Only moments ago you seemed content to be pointing your finger around. This isn't going to end well. Well. It seems you finally realized exactly what you've gone to such lengths to prove. Explain yourself, Mr. Edgeworth! The defense has already done the explaining for me. The victim in this video is a fake, which means a murder did not take place at the police department at 5:15 on the day of the murder. So the real crime could only take place at one location. The underground parking lot at the prosecutor's office. The murder being Miss Lana Skye, the defendant. The evidence is compelling. A trustworthy witness observed the moment the defendant used the murder weapon. Ah! I knew that testimony was way too shabby. It was all a trap from the beginning. The activity in the evidence room still leaves many questions unanswered. Who exactly was the victim Officer Meekins encountered? And where did this person disappear to? However, this trial's purpose is to examine only the murder of Detective Goodman. Just so, Your Honor. Mr. Wright, you have to do something, or else Lana... What do I do? How am I supposed to get myself out of this mess? Object? I don't know what else to do. Objection. One moment, Your Honor. What now, Mr. Wright? Don't tell me you're objecting to what you've just proven. Of course not. But he almost walked right into the prosecution's trap. What are you talking about? This cross-examination has proven one thing and one thing only. The security video did not show the actual murder. However, it cannot be said that it is unrelated to the murder in the parking lot. Specifically, large amounts of blood traces were found in the evidence room. The defense demands further examination into the truth of the matter. Mr. Edgeworth? Yes, Your Honor. If this court were to examine this further, other witnesses will be necessary. Is the prosecution prepared? I'm sorry, Your Honor. The prosecution considered the incident at the police department to be unrelated. We have not prepared any other witnesses for this incident. This just might be my chance. Time to call a certain Texas Ranger to the stand. Mr. Wright, do you mean? Your Honor, the defense would like to request a specific witness. Oh? Whom do you have in mind? Someone we have reason to believe knows the truth. The truth behind the activities that took place in the evidence room. The prosecution requests to hear this person's name before deciding whether or not to comply. Very well then, Mr. Wright. This person whom you would have testify, what is his or her name? Jake Marshall. Officer Jake Marshall. Why him? I can't let Edgeworth know everything just yet. He's in charge of the evidence room. I feel we should hear what he has to say. The prosecution agrees to the defense's request. Since he was responsible for guarding the room, we should hear his testimony. Fortunately, he works in the police department. We shouldn't need longer than 20 minutes to prepare. Very well. The court will take a 30-minute recess while the witness is subpoenaed. Will the prosecution please prepare the witness during this time? We will, Your Honor. Court is now in recess. There's no stopping you, is there, Mr. Wright? Huh? What do you mean? You called for Jake Marshall. It seems you figured everything out. I haven't figured anything out. Lana, you're the one who knows everything. Emma, you always know everything. Why don't you just tell us? Mr. Wright is trying his hardest to protect you. I don't recall ever asking for his protection. How can you be so cold? Don't you trust us? Don't you trust me? Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals. Oh, I guess I am. I'll come back later. Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it? You've got a lot of nerve, pal, making a detective run all around while on duty. And to top it off, you call me here. I've seen happier people at funerals. Sorry, Detective. You better be, pal. Hey, Hey! I didn't see you there, Chief Prosecutor Sky.
That's okay. So, have you brought what I asked?
Oh! You mean this, right?
My apologies, Detective. Due to my present circumstances, I was forced to use Mr. Wright's name when making my request.
My name? Never in a million years would I have thought it was you who asked me. Could I bother you to bring me the SL9 incident files? I'll need them by noon. Talk about crazy. The SL9 incident?
But Lana, that's... I thought Mr. Wright might need them, so I had them brought here. Here, you might do well to read them.
I can't believe you, the chief prosecutor, were a witness in that case. Witness? Miss Sky was a witness? Files for the Joe Dark killings. Take it from me, you don't want anything to do with serial murders. Oh, what? Now that I brought you your stuff, you're just gonna ignore me? Emma? But why? Hold on, before we go any further, since Phoenix is obviously reading this, let's take a look at this ourselves. SL9 incident closed. Perpetrator, Joe Dark. Crime, serial murder. The sentence was death. Victims, Edward Jones, Edith Kirby, Jeb Bates, Jason Knight, Rachel Moss, Neil Marshall? Okay, that's interesting. Trial data. Head prosecutor, Miles Edgeworth. Witnesses, Lana Sky and Emma Sky. So they weren't in charge, well, they weren't helping with the case in the sense that, you know, they were, like, part of the prosecution. They were witnesses. Both of them were witnesses. I guess Edgeworth probably had some help with Lana since she was chief prosecutor, but Emma as well? Investigation Task Force. Executive investigators, Damon Gant and Lana Sky. Head investigator, Bruce Goodman. Investigators, Jake Marshall and Angel Starr. Okay, so Gant and Lana were the executive investigators, whatever that is. Bruce Goodman was the head, and then Jake and Angel were involved. Lana and Emma were witnesses. And someone named Neil Marshall was a victim. That is very interesting. Why is your name in here?
What? My name's in there? I don't know. Unless... No, it couldn't be. Lana, this SL9 incident, is that...
That's the classification number the police filed it under. 2 years ago, the rest of the world knew it as the Joe Dark killings.
The Joe Dark? No, Lana! That's over with! No!
Emma, wait! She ran away. You know what? I just remembered. I gotta be somewhere. Sorry, pal, but I'm out of here. Jake Marshall, Angel Starr, Damon Gant, Miles Edgeworth. Not to mention Lana and Emma. Everyone involved in this case is connected to those killings 2 years ago. This can't be just a coincidence.
Knowing you, you just might be able to figure it out. Time to get back to the trial, Mr. Wright. Best of luck.
Better take a good look at this file. Yeah, already did that, Phoenix. Oh, and that's the end of that. Why was that? Ugh. I'm wondering if maybe the first day was just really hard, or was I just really that unobservant with Angel Starr's testimony? Can anyone else really verify if Angel Starr's testimony is just that much harder than these preceding incidents Don't mention anything that hasn't happened yet, because obviously blind playthrough. I don't want to know about stuff for the future. But just from the court things that we've already done, is it just naturally so much harder? Yeah, well, how are we doing on time? Actually, we're doing pretty well on time, to be honest. But I mean, to be honest, I probably could have fit this in one episode, but I already made the split, so you know what? This will just be a shorter episode. So, next time on Let's Play Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney. We are calling Jake Marshall to the stand to testify about what happened, or what exactly he's in charge of for that evidence room, and what exactly he can enlighten us about this. Especially with dealing with this SL9 incident, or more specifically, the Joe Dark killings. It is very interesting that every single person who was involved in the investigation is also involved in Goodman's murder, including Goodman himself. Not to mention just those other aspects, like that Neil Marshall. That's gotta be important. That has to be someone related to Jake. Either like, I mean, I'm thinking like his brother or something. Brother or father. I don't think son. I don't think Jake Marshall's that old. But in any case, hopefully we'll be able to get some information and maybe some info about the Joe Dark killings. So we'll see once we call Jake Marshall to the stand. So, until next time, everyone, take care.